There are countless things that you have to be mindful of in the loctician-client relationship and in the client-loctician relationship. So there are any number of things that we could talk about all day long, but something I want you to begin to think about more as a proactive way of managing the relationship and keeping it healthy is, am I a good match for my loctician? Not so much is your loctician a good match for you, but am I a good match for my loctician? Let's go ahead and dig into this. What an amazing 2024 update of the lovely Sheila, who has been using the I Am Melanin Magic products for over 2.5 years. She looks marvelous, and so can you. Are you tired of struggling with hair growth and thinning strands? Release the magic in your locks and tresses with I Am Melanin Magic hair oils. A premium blend of all natural ingredients strengthens, restores, and revitalizes your hair for maximum health and growth. Don't let thinning hair
straightened hair
brand. Upgrade your hair care game today.
So are you.
I Am Melanin Magic hair oil. Hello, and welcome to the channel. Today, we are talking about some installation tips, okay? Now, these tips can work with you if you are just new to Sisterlocks and Microlocks. It can also work for you if you're in the process of securing the services of a new loctician. These are things that we have to think about because of the climate that we are in, and also because of the fact that this hairstyle, for most of us, it's a lifestyle. It's something that we have invested in and something that we plan to invest in. And so we're wanting to be successful with this. So everything that we do and every choice that we make regarding this is something that has to be well thought out. So let's go ahead and get into it, okay? The first thing you want to do, if you have found a loctician that you're going to be working with, or if you have someone in mind that you're going to be switching over to, is first and foremost, you want to really develop a good rapport with this person. Now, a good rapport means that there is a flow of communication that goes back and forth. You feel as though you are open and receptive to what this person is saying or has to say, and they feel the same about you. A good rapport doesn't mean that you become a mouse and that you become timid and that you give them all of the control because you feel as though you need them. It's important that you realize that when you are going into this process at whatever level you are in your journey, that you go in as an equal. And that you remember that the person that you truly are is the person that you need to show them. Trust me, I've had my experiences in this lifetime with I'm a lion, but I'm a lion when I'm forced to be a lion. I tend to be more laid back and more tolerating, and sometimes that can give off the wrong vibe to people, and I've often been taken advantage of, or my kindness has been mistaken for weakness, and that doesn't feel good. And so when you are dealing with someone new, it's so important to be out of that people-pleasing energy, to be out of the energy of pretending, and to really show them who you are, because I can tell you, if you've watched this channel for some time, you really have come to understand a lot of the things I talk about have to do with the outcome of the choices that we make regarding our hair. And it's so passionate, a decision that you have to make. It has to come from deep within, and you have to feel good about every decision you make and anyone else that you involve in your hair journey. That the only way you can really do that is to make sure that your energy is a match for that person, and that you all truly resonate. Do you understand? Not resonate in kindness, but resonate when difficulty comes up or when you need to express how you feel about something. And the only way you can really do that is to be very upfront with that person, to be diplomatic, but to be very upfront, especially if you're someone who tends to lay low, who tends to give people multiple opportunities to silently step over you or to cross over your boundaries. And in your mind, you justify that by saying, you explain it away, you rationalize it away, and you make excuses for the other person. If you're someone like that, this is a conversation that you need to really, really engage. And this is something that you have to really, really be mindful of. Because the truth of the matter is, everything is always fine until it's not, right? Everything. I don't care what it is or what kind of relationship it is. It's always fine until it's not. And at the point that you have to speak up and assert yourself and say something, this person, depending upon the type of individual they are, may not handle the situation the way you would handle it. And so the only way for you to proactively engage this type of speculation is to be yourself. And if you have very straightforward questions that you want to ask, to go ahead and ask those things so that you can see what that person's response is, and you get to see the real them as well. Because it's not only important that you show them you, it's as important that they show you who they are as well. And so by you asking some of these critical questions, or at the place of establishing whether or not you have a real resonance with this person, that's the only way that kind of stuff is going to come up in the first place. So if you think about it like this, okay, simple questions that you really would want to ask might be things are, okay, how often in the last couple of years would you say you've raised your rates? And is there any particular methodology or any particular strategy that you use when deciding to raise your rates? And you may want to preface that by saying, the real reason why I'm concerned is I'm trying to decide how affordable this is going to be for me moving forward. I want to make sure that I have all the information at my fingertips that I might need to consider. This is very important. It's super important because it's the kind of question that will allow you to gauge how this person communicates around something that may be a little difficult, okay, or a little bit challenging, or just a topic that might be somewhat unexpected. Another sample question might be something like this. How do you handle cancellations with clients that have been your clients for, say, years? And the reason why you might want to strategically ask a question like this is because at some point it will come up and you'll need to rebook. But you also want to get a sense of, is there a loyalty factor in the way that this person deals with clients who are really invested in them? Is this someone who will say, well, I have a straight policy, and my policy is if you miss or you have to cancel at the last minute and I don't get 3 to 4 hours notice or 24 hours notice, then you have to forfeit your appointment and you have to forfeit the deposit, or you will still be charged. It's very important to understand these things and to really, have given some type of consideration to them in the beginning, because if not, it ends up putting you in a situation where something happens, as it inevitably does, and you could be caught off guard. Something else that is very important for you to know, the second thing is, how does the fee incorporate all of the things that might come up during a session that you might actually need? For example, when you go and you get your retightenings, for example, moving past the installation, because not everybody's going to be at the same part of the journey. Does it involve getting your hair washed? Does it involve any type of grooming? And I kind of object to grooming long term. And you can look at some of my other videos about caring for your locks and preventing thinning that can address the reason why I'm somewhat against grooming. I lean towards saying no, but is grooming included? If there's any unraveling in any of your locks or any bunching, or if there is perhaps a lock or multiple locks that need repair, is that included in the retightening? Those things are important, because when you sit down in that chair and you turn over your trust to the person who you've chosen, and that person has also chosen you, You want to feel good, you want to feel confident, and you want to feel safe. If something comes up that you have a concern about, you want to either have already broached that topic and have an understanding about it, or you want to feel comfortable at least bringing it up to that person. So let's say, for example, you get home and you realize that there's a particular lock that is thinning excessively, and it's thinning in the middle of the lock. Okay, this could come from picking. If you do things like I do and you're obsessive compulsive with your hair and you have certain OCDs, you may have some thinning in the middle of a lock. This could come from a pre-existing condition from a previous loctician or something that you did yourself, okay, to your own hair. It could definitely come from dyeing. I leave my ends open. I've always opened my ends, which makes my ends much more susceptible to breakage when coloring than they would be if they were not open. So I'm always looking to rehab my ends. So let's say, for example, you have something that has caused the lock to thin in the middle. And let's say your retightnings include just the retightening and a wash. It doesn't include anything extra. And so you get home after your retightening and you realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe she saw this. Why didn't she do anything? Now, a certain type of loctician would have gone on and done that anyway. Someone who's very much invested in the longevity of your hair, someone who may not see 50 locks that need repaired, but may see just one or two and make an exception, will go ahead and take care of that. But you have some locticians who are very much white and black and by the book, and anything that they've told you is not included in the service, or anything that you've not discussed with them is not going to be included in the service. And so for you to be caught off guard in a situation like this, it wouldn't really happen if you had already sort of had a conversation with that person. That's why, again, establishing a rapport, making sure that you understand everything that is important as you try to cement a good relationship with the person that you are entrusting to do your hair. And as that person also sizes you up and decides whether or not you're the type of client that they want, or whether or not you're someone that has a million questions and they begin to feel a little bit uneasy about, and so forth and so on. The other thing that I always suggest when it comes down to vetting a new loctician, or just vetting whether or not a particular situation is going to be good for you, is to ask the question of how do they approach thinning locks if they have a client that has had some thinning. Now, you may have someone who says they've never experienced that, and that's fine. That may have something to do with the particular way in which they do their retightenings. It could have something to do with their client list. It could be any number of things that you could be dealing with. But this is the kind of question where you want to get a sense of the level of expertise, the level of transparency, and also their troubleshooting capacity. A loctician's ability to troubleshoot will be one of your most valuable assets. And this is something that I talk about in my ebook, which you can get from IamMelaninMagic.com, hopefully before the beginning of the new year. It's something that's really important. You need a loctician who can troubleshoot. You need someone who can think outside of the box, who can even think beyond what they were trained to do. Because what they were trained to do came out of the head and the mind of an individual. There are an infinity of other ways to address any problem that anyone can come up with. Just like there's an infinity of different ways to put in microlocks. There's an infinity of, there's no lack of abundance when it comes to problem solving. What we have sometimes is a lack of initiative around problem solving when it comes to your hair. And it's important that you understand, if you're dealing with someone who has a little bit of foresight and can or has done some planning or some proactive thinking around potential things that can crop up around this style or around a thinning scenario that could very easily become a reality for you the longer that you are in this journey. And it can become a reality for you depending upon the nature of your retightenings in general, the quality of the retightenings, the mastery of the mechanics of your loctician, the frequency, the tension, the number of rotations. There's so many things that play into this. And this is why it's so important that you're mindful of this, especially if you're not intending to be a do-it-yourselfer. Okay? That's very important. The fourth thing that I want to talk to you about is the necessity of having a backup. Not just a backup plan, but a backup loctician. Someone else who you go to periodically, while not as regular as going to your main loctician, but someone who you go to regularly that you trust and can be there in the event that you have a cancellation with your other loctician, in the event that you have a situation that can't be mitigated. And you all will be surprised at the ways in which this can happen. There's a video on my channel from about 2 years ago with Terry, and her name is in the thumbnail, so you can always search it. But she had been going to a loctician for some time, more than a couple of years, I believe. I believe it had been a while. It had been long enough. Probably way longer than that. But it had been long enough for her to feel as though they had a friendship. And there were certain things that kept coming up that she was bringing to the attention of her loctician in terms of preference around certain things. And about 2 or 3 sessions after, they had a few conversations, which she felt were not only in good faith, but there was an open line of communication, and it was a very amicable outcome. That loctician dropped her with barely any notice. And so these things can actually happen. And I'll tell you the reason why it can happen. And me being an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur for over 20-something years. And the way the average entrepreneur views the client can be different than the way the client views the entrepreneur. And this is what you have to understand. It takes a special kind of entrepreneur to take a personal interest in you and to be willing to mitigate issues and to have offline discussions and to be patient with you and so forth and so on. Those are far and few between. They are more the exception than the rule. And then you have the person who's on the far extreme who sees you as just a financial addendum. But then you have the people in the middle where most of the people are. And those are the people who are human and who are working hard and doing the best that they can, and may not always be so willing to complicate what they see is their responsibility or their job in making exceptions in general or making consistent exceptions over time, and can lose patience with you, the client. You, the client, on the other hand, sit on the other side of the chair, ingratiated to the person that has taken on your retightenings and who is, by and large, I say the person with the tool controls your world. And while that can be a bit exaggerating, it's true. And so you sit on the other side of the chair and you really don't think about those sorts of things. You just know when you get up, you want your hair done right, and you know this person's doing your hair right, and you feel good about it. And you know, you do what clients do. Clients are not going to be thinking in the mindset of the business owner, and they can't be expected to. But what I want you to understand is that your relationship and the way that you may look up to this person can be very different than the way they may be viewing you. Shout out to Deborah, who was going to a loctician, I believe she said for 8 years, and when her hair began to fall out, the relationship fell apart. When she developed CCCA, which is an extreme inflammatory condition where her lock hairs began to grow beneath the scalp and create a tunneling network of tangles and dramatic inflammation in her hair. I'm hoping to bring her on the channel one of these days to have her to share some real insights with you all. But the relationship fell apart. And when her hair fell out, all save a few locks, she actually shared with me that the loctician called and asked her when was she coming in for her next retightening. So you can be having a certain expectation, and that sounds insane to those of us who are listening on the other side of the wall. But these things can happen. You can be dealing with an individual that really has an impersonal way of engaging their clientele, which is not perceived until something trying or challenging comes up. And that's why if you don't take care of this on the front end, it's important sometime throughout your journey to interject certain things that give you a sort of a view of the type of spirit that you are dealing with, because you don't know that until you do know that. And by the time you do know that, you could already be up the creek without a paddle, which is why having a backup plan and having established a rapport and having some insight into what do the retightening fees actually include, or what does the installation actually include? Does the installation of your Microlocks and Sisterlocks, does it include that follow-up appointment for free? Does it include the Sisterlocks starter kit with the shampoo? What all does it actually include? It's so important to develop that rapport with the person that you are entrusting to do your hair, and to find out not so much if they're a good match for you, but are you a good match for your loctician? It's not the kind of relationship that we have to look at one way. Well, you know, the shop was messy. She was 20 minutes late. She's canceled on me 3 times. She's not willing to show me or give me the names of clients who have been her clients for many, many, many years. All of these things. No. That's fine if you can get those things, but it's important for you to decide, am I in my authenticity? And am I in my authenticity of who I know I will be on this journey, because I'm invested in the health of my hair, and I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to have some commentary. I'm going to want to get a summary at the end of each of my retightenings to kind of get an update of what's going on with my hair and if there's anything she needs to share. Am I going to be a match for this person, or is that going to be something that's going to intimidate this individual? Is this individual insecure? Is this individual someone that needs to have control over the entire process when I'm in that chair? Is this individual going to also see me in a collaborative way as having a certain amount of inner intuitive and mechanical knowledge about what's going on with my own hair? Or is this someone whose skin I'm going to get under? Is this someone who, while I'm thinking we're building a rapport the entire time, there's actually an energy that I don't see that is undermining the health of the relationship, and as such, at some point, we're going to have to part and go our separate ways? These are things that I want you to consider when you're dealing with, am I a good match for my loctician? Can this relationship with my loctician go the distance? These are very important things. So I hope that these 4 things I've shared with you or something that are relatable. And anyone that has had an experience already that has called into question whether or not this is a relationship that can be flexible, kind of like a rubber band without popping, please put it in the comments. Anyone who has a story to share or has learned something having lost a loctician or having had to get another one, or understands the value of developing a rapport, or understands the value of having a backup, or whatever it may be. Any of you who are already new to the journey and thinking about getting Sisterlocks or Microlocks installed, if you have already tried out a few locticians and you know that the 2 of you are not a match for one another, share the experience in the comment, or give the video a thumbs up, or at least give some sense of how this situation arrived and how it played out. Lots of love to you all. If you haven't purchased my book, Manifesting Your Masterpiece, you can get it from Amazon.com. You can also visit the I Am Melanin Magic website for an array of healthy, handmade healing oils for not only your skin, but your hair too. As you move forward on this journey, I wish you all the best.